And what we're going to turn to now is one of my great colleagues. I shared with you his book the other day, Managing as Designing, and it's a Stanford University Press book. And it really begins to say, how do we approach these things with a different kind of mind and a different kind of practice? And I've asked Dick Boland, Richard Boland, the co-author with Fred Colopy of this Stanford book on Managing as Design, to try and help make some meaning and make some commentary on what Jeff is saying from this perspective of management as design. Thank you for joining us, Dick Boland.
Thank you very much, David. Well, nothing like a good challenge, how to take Jeffrey Sachs' ideas for transforming the world and make them happen just a little faster. What I'm going to talk about is something that we're involved in here at CASE, and that is to rethink management, what management is about, and especially how we educate managers. I was struck by the way in Sachs's talk he was discussing the role of decision making, and in a sense saying, well, we need better decision making. The sort of thing that we're working with, though, is that it's a certain approach to decision making that has very much gotten us in the problem we're in. It is not technology that is the problem, in a sense. It's the attitude with which we approach decision making. And Fred and I take it right back to efforts to transform management education, to uplift it, make it more like a science, turn it into a robust discipline that started in the mid-1950s and has been underway all that time. It has had a tremendous success in transforming management education and the image of managers. But it has transformed it into the image of management education as training in decision making and the education of the manager as a decision maker. So we refer to this as a decision attitude. But now there are some problems with the decision attitude. Yes, it has very nice analytic capabilities. It has tools of all sorts that are very powerful. But it also has some baggage that comes along with it. In order to be able to make decisions in a rigorous way, we have to lay out the alternatives. We have to know quite a bit about the alternatives. We have to know how they're going to play out. We have to be able to describe the conditions on the ground, the effects of various changes, how they will play out, and so on. And that kind of knowledge is a kind of knowledge that we can only have when we are dealing with a world that is rather stable. Now, a decision maker, of course, recognizes that there's tremendous instabilities and risks and uncertainties and so on. But under the froth on the surface, there's the presumption of a stability to the world. A stability of the world in which the decision maker stands back and is very pragmatic and says, well, let's just see what the situation is. The situation presents us with alternatives. My job is to take those alternatives and to pick the best ones. That's how I use my analytic techniques, my data analysis, and so on and so on. The problem that we see is that we train our students, we do executive education for our managers, and we are essentially reinforcing them in being passive. Passive receivers of the way the world is. Passive receivers of how things are so that we can be practical, so that we can challenge an alternative that comes up if it hasn't got sufficient detail, if it isn't worked out sufficiently well in its plan, because we can't make a good decision on it unless we have that information. The idiocy of the decision attitude that permeates, of course, the media as well as our education system is seen very clearly in the response to the global financial crisis. There is an initial statement of what it is that might be done with the banks, let's just take as an example. And of course, immediately, not enough detail. Nothing has been worked out here. How can you say anything about it? So the decision attitude has a way of freezing situations, immobilizing people. At any rate, to counter this passivity in the image of our leaders, we are working on an alternative, which we call a design attitude. This was very much stimulated by working with Frank Gehry over a period of 6 years on the design and construction of our building. But the notion is that if you're a designer and you are designing, you approach the situation differently. The situation is not presented to you. The alternatives are not there in the situation. Instead, the situation is something that we have made, and we can remake it. In fact, a designer has an obligation to remake it. A design attitude says, however we're reading this situation now, it can be better. And my responsibility is not to choose the best alternative that's presented to me by my situation. My responsibility is to transform the situation to something that is better suited to human values. A design attitude says, beware of the default beware of the default solution. Okay. After 9/11, what is the first thing you read in the newspaper? We have a huge response to 9/11, and that response is to take all of the various intelligence gathering, border patrol, whatever it is, groups together into one, and we're going to have this colossal bureaucracy, and that is going to ensure us that we're going to have a single point that is highly intelligent and just as robust as the terrorists that we're trying to deal with. A designer would say, that is the absolute default solution. You got 3 pieces of a hierarchy that don't talk to each other, make them one piece. All right? I can see that solution coming, and as a designer, I resist it. I can say no to that immediately. But instead, that's what we've done, and we've spent the last however many years trying to make it work. A designer also looks at a situation and an idea comes up, well, let's do this. I say, well, we could do that, but why? In our work with Gehry, certainly we saw that with architects in his office, but we also saw it with contractors, specialty contractors. We also saw it with workers on the construction site. You know, yeah, we could do that drywall that way, but why? It's an opportunity to do something great, even for the drywallers. A design attitude says, this is not what we're doing. What? Not what you're doing? As a way of communicating that we're taking this step, we're putting out a prototype, we're putting out an idea, like we were getting so many beautiful ideas just a little while ago. But that is not what we're doing. We're not tied to that idea. That idea is something to spark a conversation, to get us going in designing. It is not something that we're going to make a decision about. It's something that we're going to play with and work with. A design attitude also says, I am aware that I have to be careful not to fall in love with my ideas. I'm going to have good ideas as we start working on an interesting problem. Other people will have good ideas. But for as many good ideas as come out, there are better ideas that haven't come out yet. So I have to resist falling in love with the first or second or third good idea that comes along. The notion that we have to act quickly. We have to act quickly. We have no time to be engaged in designing. We have to move. That was the overarching justification for the monstrous, huge decisions that got made so quickly in the financial restructuring. Okay, well, now we look where we are. Many, many, many months down the line. We still don't have a coherent statement of what the problem was in the first place. We don't have anything but very much cross-purpose explanations of what we're trying to accomplish, how we'll know whether it has accomplished it or not. So the absence of designing and a design attitude in our response to the financial situation, in the interest of not having time to waste on stuff like that, the need to make the hard decision fast, it really does the nation and the world a disservice. But a design thinker is not as susceptible to fall into that trap as a decision attitude is. Next, a designer does not, if they're a great designer, they do not believe that they have done or they have accomplished their creation alone. If you're a great designer, you have pushed materials, you've pushed technology, you've pushed organization structures, you've pushed practices, both organizational, social, cultural. You've pushed them all. There's a continuous process of innovation by everyone involved in a large design project if it's going to work. A design project doesn't start out with a plan that you just do, right? It's not a plan that the decision maker can say yes or no to based on some sort of analytic techniques. It's a direction to start moving. And the important thing is to maintain the design attitude so that we won't falter once we start moving. We won't have expected that everything is going to work out. When we run into resistance and end up changing our mind and getting a better idea, it's not a failure. It's what it's all about. The continuous inquiry and the continuous innovation. So that's what we're doing here at CASE, and we're working hard to try and make our management school and the colleagues that we have around the world who are also engaged in and inspired by the notion of managing as designing to create a new possibility, an attitude. Yes, there's skills, yes, there's thinking techniques, yes, there's conceptualizations, but overall it's an attitude. And it's an attitude that serves to counterbalance the decision attitude that we have been so successful in instilling in management and in our students. And to bring that sort of balance between a decision attitude and a design attitude is where we are putting our efforts over the next few years. So I hope that we can communicate with you, benefit from your ideas, and work together on it. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Dick. We're going to have just a few short announcements and then a break for lunch. We encourage you to, if you're not finished with lunch, to bring it back into the room at your leisure, but we will start promptly at 1:30 with another view from a designer perspective by Bruce Mao. So if for some reason or any reason you haven't quite finished, just bring your food back, or you can eat at the tables anyway. John has some directions for us. Yes, come on up.
Good afternoon, everybody. All right, I hope you've had a wonderful morning so far. We're sure very happy about the way things have been going. So some quick announcements I need to make. Today at lunchtime right now is if you want to register for the Arts and Leadership Evening that's designed by Professor Nancy Adler. The programs are on your table, so you can get a taste of what kind of an evening it will be. There's only 120 spots open, so if you haven't registered by sending an email before the conference, we encourage you to go and register at the reception desk right now. There is an additional fee for this evening, and that is $25, but it includes a pre-release copy of Nancy Adler's Leadership Insight Journal, and it's a beautiful book, and we encourage you to join in for this evening. It's going to be special. We'd also like to shout out a big thank you to our sponsor for today's lunch, Accenture. You will see the representatives from Accenture here today. They'll also be presenting a workshop after lunch today, and there will also be a workshop tomorrow that representatives from Accenture will be part of. Another request we have from you, we have tried our utmost to make this conference as sustainable as we can and to minimize our waste. So we ask that you are mindful of where you put your cups and your plates and pieces of paper. There are stations for compostable waste. All of the cups and plates and napkins and everything that you receive here is compostable, but you need to put it in the composting containers. And they're right here, right there, at the back of the catering area, and at the entrance. Then another reminder, if you want to share your views, opinions, stories of what's happening with you right here, the listening post is in the interview room across from the registration desk. It's not a formal thing. You just go sit down and you share what's happening to you here at the forum. Anybody that is presenting a workshop today after lunch or a paper session today, we ask that you come to the registration desk during the first 5 minutes of lunch, and we will be able to show you your room. So anybody that is presenting in the breakout sessions today, if you want to see your room, first 5 minutes of lunch, there will be someone that will take you there, answer all your questions, and make sure that you're set up as you need it to. For those of you that would like to attend these sessions and you don't know where the locations of the breakout rooms are, if you haven't received one of these last night, there are extra copies at the registration desk. So you can pick this up, take note of all the changes to the agenda. There are some changes to the schedule, and also check out the location of the breakout sessions that you would like to attend. And then I'll be back here after lunch, after our keynote speaker, to give you some more information, again, about where you need to go and what's going to happen. So that's it. We ask you to be back here promptly at 1:30 so that we can get this agenda back on time. Thank you. Have a wonderful lunch.